I've done well over $2 million in e-commerce. Now about 70% of this has come from Amazon, and I have also done well over $500,000 on TikTok Shop. So in today's video, we're gonna break down what is better, TikTok Shop or Amazon FBA. To start off, we're gonna go over Old Reliable, and that is Amazon. It's the platform that has been building trust with buyers for well over 2 decades now, and it's really cemented its top spot in the global e-commerce market. Now, the biggest thing with Amazon, the biggest pro that Amazon has going for it is the reliable revenue that you can get from the platform. Now with Amazon, your sales are very much consistent. I'm actually recording this in the middle of the Prime Day week. Of course, with this, my sales are spiking a lot higher than usual, but usually your sales, they just have little waves throughout the month. Usually you find maybe towards middle to end of the month, you have a slight dip, and then when everyone's getting paid again, your sales do boost up a little bit. But when I'm talking about sales boosts, for the most part, we're talking sort of anywhere from like 10 to 20%, which is quite flat. When you break it down over a month, your sales on the same products are going to be reasonably consistent, unless obviously you're launching new products and in heavy growth phases. Another amazing benefit that Amazon has is that you can basically have employees to do half the work for you. Now, of course, I'm talking about Amazon FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon. There are warehouse workers that will be sending out orders on your behalf. Now, of course, if you're a beginner, this is one of the most important things to have, because you probably don't have the cash flow to start hiring staff, but to have people be able to fulfill your orders means you have more time to be able to grow your business. Now, Amazon is a mostly search-based machine. Most of Amazon sales are driven from search results. It is someone looking for a specific product on Amazon, and then they'll come up with a few options and they'll go and choose one of the options on the platform. Whereas obviously TikTok is almost the opposite to that, but we'll get onto that much later in the video and why that can be such an advantage, especially if you're a newcomer to the marketplace. Now, of course, with Amazon, there is huge buyer trust there. So you don't really need to have brand credibility on the Amazon platform, because buyers trust Amazon and they know that if they get a shoddy Amazon product, it's very, very easy to do a return. Hey, I know for me, I bought myself a MacBook Pro from Amazon because it was the best price out of anywhere. A week after I bought it, Apple announced a new model. What did I do? I returned my original model. It's over £2,500 for this laptop. I just returned it to Amazon, no headaches, and I bought the new one when it came out. That is how easy Amazon's return policy is. Another absolutely fantastic thing about Amazon is actually, because they've been doing it for so long, there is so many tools and resources for sellers, whether that's forums or the Amazon Seller University, or even just the sheer amount of tools you get as a brand on Amazon. Actually, even to this day, I sometimes still find a little bit mind-boggling. Now, of course, with the Amazon platform, there are some tremendous drawbacks, and we'll start off by talking probably about the biggest one that everyone has an issue with, and that is the Amazon fees. Now, everyone will always tell you that Amazon fees are super high and they're unfair and Amazon make too much money. I'm here to tell you today that actually, as much as this is a con and it is very expensive to sell on Amazon, you do pay a lot in referral fees and FBA fees. If you're selling the correct products, your fees for shipping will be far cheaper than you can ever get. I know for some of my products, my fulfillment fees can be as low as like £1.50, and it's absolutely crazy. I could never post something that big for that cheap. It's madness, especially if you take into fact that I don't have to then spend any extra on staffing or warehousing to store those products. The £1.50 for some of these smaller and lighter products is absolutely mind-blowing how cheap it is. Now, of course, on top of this, you do get the referral fee, and when you stack the two together, it can take out quite a chunk of your product's profit margin. But actually, again, Amazon charges a referral fee because their platform is so big and they're bringing the buyers to you. So again, it does just make sense. Now, another thing with the Amazon FBA model is that actually the PPC costs, especially in America, are rising so high. And it can really get expensive, not only to launch products, but even to maintain your products. Or even if you're just scaling a new product, it can be really expensive nowadays to launch a product on Amazon because the PPC can be so aggressive and so expensive. Again, that mostly comes down to the individual sellers or user of the Amazon advertising platform, their capabilities to understand the Amazon advertising platform correctly. Because I know for me, as soon as I started implementing the proper strategies for my Amazon PPC, my PPC spend went down while simultaneously rising my sales. I think it was about 20 to 40%, within the first month. I can't quite remember because it was a little while ago now. Another thing with Amazon is it is heavily saturated with competition. As I'm sure anyone who is already selling on Amazon knows, especially within the world of private label, there are countless Chinese brands who can obviously get better prices than you'll ever be able to get, that will be able to use programs such as AGL to ship their products directly from the factories at bottom prices in China direct to the Amazon factories, and they are just going to be able to get it landed in Amazon probably for cheaper than you ever will as a Westerner. Of course, Westerners have their advantages over the Chinese. For me, the biggest advantage is brand names. If you look at a lot of these Chinese brand names, some of them just don't make any sense. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the competition is absolutely fierce and people will do anything to get ahead on Amazon, even if that means reporting your listings to get them taken down falsely, or even trying clever little tricks with IP infringement marks, again, to get rid of your listings, or even just really aggressive PPC advertising to make sure that your listing can never get any traction. Over time with Amazon, most of the products on there are definitely commodities, so you're just getting squeezed on your margin. Because let's be honest, if you think about what you're buying on Amazon, for the most part, you're probably buying little things. Anywhere from sort of £5 to £30 is probably the bulk of what you're buying, and that is the bulk of what people buy on Amazon is within that price range. Now for me, I know I used the example earlier of when I bought my MacBook on Amazon, that was £2,500, but the reason why I bought it on Amazon is because I decided I wanted to buy it, and Amazon was just the cheapest place, so it made sense to buy it from there. But for the most part, people are buying more of those impulse purchases. At the end of the day, to the consumer, it's usually going to come down to price because most of the products look the same. And that is why it's so important when you launch your Amazon brand to make sure that you are differentiating your product from your competitors that are already in your niche. Amazon is like the Ferrari of e-commerce. It looks great. You can have some brilliant results and you can have a lot of fun with it. But equally, it can be very expensive and very high maintenance as well. And this just is not for everyone. So without further ado, let's move on to TikTok Shop. And firstly, of course, we're going to talk about the benefits of selling on TikTok. Look, TikTok Shop is like the wild west of e-commerce at the minute. It is crazy the stuff going on out there. The biggest thing for TikTok Shop is the viral potential. I've had this multiple times where your product can go from doing absolutely nothing to overnight doing thousands of sales every single day. This means you can really get your brand going super quickly, and a lot of the time you do not have to spend ridiculous amounts on ads to add rocket fuel to your brand or your products to launch them into the stratosphere on day one. Usually I would say another advantage of TikTok Shop is a lower cost of acquisition compared to Amazon, I found, especially when launching new products. Again, because if you're utilizing affiliates correctly and even your own page content and live streams, you can really make sure that you're not having to spend too much other than maybe a couple of free sample costs to really get your product launched. Whereas obviously with Amazon, you usually need to invest heavily in ads to get a product off the ground. Another fantastic thing about TikTok is it's a great place for building brand. Whereas again, on Amazon, you're usually just looking at price, where TikTok's putting products in front of your face and branded content in front of your face. Not only can you sell your product to a consumer, but they may also see your branded content videos, which actually helps you build up a brand presence in your buyer's mind beyond just a purchase or potential purchase that they may be looking to make. Another thing I've noticed with TikTok is that you usually get a faster feedback loop. If you were to compare 100 sales on Amazon to 100 sales on TikTok, you are almost definitely going to get a lot more reviews on your product on TikTok without having to ask, without sending any emails, like on Amazon, where reviews are really like gold dust and you really don't get too many of them. On TikTok, you genuinely get a much higher review rate. I would probably say it's somewhere between 5 and 10 times the amount of reviews come through on TikTok compared to Amazon. Another pro of TikTok nowadays is that they do have the Fulfilled by TikTok program. It's not too expensive. I would say probably at the minute it's still a little bit cheaper than Amazon. Now this does depend on what sort of products you are selling, but generally it's a little bit cheaper. Another pro of TikTok is actually the fact that TikTok fund a lot of discounts for customers, which is absolutely fantastic for getting customers' foot in the door with your brand and getting that first purchase in without having to fund it yourself. Because usually when TikTok are running their big summer sale events or Black Friday sale events where they are offering platform subsidies for your products, then that is when you are gonna capture the most sales. Now let's move on to the cons of TikTok, because as much as TikTok is this amazing place and you may think that the grass is greener on the other side, I assure you it's not always going to be like that, because there are a hell of a lot of issues with TikTok Shop. And the first one is actually just going to be the counterfeit products on there. There are so many fake copies of your products on TikTok Shop that you probably don't even know about, and it's actually really, really hard to get rid of them. I know I've had this with my own products before, where people are stealing my titles, my listing images, literally everything, and I report them, and TikTok do absolutely nothing about it. Whereas Amazon on the flip side will take it down just like that the second someone steals your copyrighted material. In regards to this, Amazon definitely have a fire then aim approach, and TikTok, I don't really think they do anything, to be honest. Another thing with TikTok that is a con is actually that buyers generally have a lower intent on there. So usually the more expensive the product, the harder it is to gain some traction on TikTok. And whilst I did allude to this earlier about the fact that Amazon is generally in that lower price range, you can still sell higher priced products on Amazon, but on TikTok, it's even harder than that. Another downside for TikTok, and for me, this has been the hardest one to deal with in selling on TikTok for the last 2 years, is actually the fact that your sales can just go like this. It's so up and down. You might have an affiliate video pop off 1 week, so you start ordering loads and loads of stock in, and then 2 weeks later, you're sat overstocked with no sales coming in because your viral video or videos have absolutely plummeted and are now generating no views and therefore no sales. Now, of course, there are ways to mitigate this by managing affiliates correctly and utilizing live streams and ads, etc. But that is definitely a topic for another video. If you are interested in that, then just leave me a comment and let me know what part of TikTok you are struggling with most, and I'll be sure to make some content on that very, very soon. TikTok, to sum it up, is like driving a rocket ship blindfolded. You might crash and die, but equally, you might make it and hit 6 figures overnight. Overall, if we're gonna think about these two business models side by side and what is better, actually it's neither. It depends very much on your goals and your brand goals. Whereas TikTok, you may be able to build faster, Amazon might be slightly better for long-term growth. I think the key for me is using both platforms strategically and linking them together to make sure you are growing your online presence as an e-commerce brand as much as possible. Now, some people do choose to stay away from certain platforms. I know people that stay away from Amazon because they believe their fees are too high, but also a lot of people stay away from TikTok because it undervalues their brand, because TikTok are always trying to make you run promotions. And if you're not going to run promotions, a lot of the time they will even just offer discounts on your products for you. And again, if you're trying to build more of a premium product range, then maybe TikTok Shop is not for you. Amazon will most likely bring in consistent money for your business, and you will probably have slightly lower margins as well. But TikTok can really give you rocket fuel to get off the ground running, and it can be an excellent way to boost your brand. Now, as someone who does sell the same products on both platforms, the one thing that I can tell you about using both of them together is usually when I see my sales spike on TikTok, whether that be from a viral video or just a cluster of videos that are all doing quite well but not really at that viral state, that usually I find that my Amazon sales spike with it. If you were to plot it out on a graph on one product where the sales might be like this, all of a sudden on Amazon, they can go up here and double overnight. And then if I then go and look on TikTok, funnily enough, I've had a viral video, whether it be from one of our own pages or one of my affiliate pages, that has absolutely popped off and not only driven insane sales on TikTok, but also really boosted my Amazon sales. And the reason obviously for this is that some people still just don't trust TikTok. They don't trust buying on TikTok Shop. So if someone is looking for a new fan, they might see this cool one on TikTok that they really like the look of, but then actually they then might go and decide to go and see if they can find it on Amazon. Whether it's because they don't trust TikTok or they think that Amazon might have a slightly lower price, then they'll go over to Amazon and buy the exact same thing. In my years of selling, over 4 years on Amazon and about 2 years on TikTok, I've seen it all, and I can tell you for an absolute fact that neither one is necessarily going to get you rich overnight. Now, TikTok may bring you fast money, but it's probably not going to give you as long-term brand building unless you do it exactly right and you execute the correct strategies, which of course I've been learning myself over my last couple of years. Whereas Amazon, you might get off to a slightly slower start, but once you're up there, it's usually a lot harder to fall off a cliff, and it's easier to maintain yourself at the top than it is on TikTok, where you have that virality of going up and down with video views on the platform. TikTok is better for starting fast and building attention, whereas Amazon is better for scaling a business, especially one that could potentially be exited and sold for a decent amount of money one day. Really build up a brand defense. The real game is, of course, as I've already alluded to in this video, is to combine them and use them together to fuel each other. Use TikTok to drive attention, and Amazon is your real conversion and scaling platform. If you're interested in selling products online, or if you already are selling products online and you want to learn more about e-commerce in general, then make sure you subscribe to the channel, because I've been selling online for over 4 years now. And as I alluded to at the start of this video, I've made well over $2 million in the process of doing so.